Hey folks, Al Puglisi. Today I've got my friend Fred Eisen. Hey Fred, how are you?
Pretty good, Al. How
And
about you?
good, good. And Howard Zane. And we're going to talk a little history about the layout, kind of some things that might not have been talked about in any of the other videos. And Fred Eisen, why don't you give us a quick, for the viewers that don't know who you are, you're an icon as well, Fred.
Well, I don't
You
know about
are.
that, but
Fred has a great YouTube channel, which is awesome. You must go. It's what, Fred Eisen
Fred
Trains?
Eisen, just look under Fred Eisen, and you'll find a guy in New Hope, Pennsylvania, that sells leather goods, but that's not me.
Okay. All
But
right.
anyway, same name. But anyway, yeah, that's my website.
Wow.
I've been in the hobby, and I've known Howard for
years.
years and years and years, and I worked for him when he ran the Great Scale Train Show.
Okay.
So that's how we first got to meet, and then Howard, I said, Howard, do you need some help on your layout? So here we are.
Wow.
So we've been coming over and helping Howard out. There was like, well, he'd already had the original section built, and this section here, the extension, is when I first got involved with Howard, actually helping him build this.
Around the late 70s or 80s?
No. This extension was 94. What
94.
happened was
Okay.
I burned out after Keller did the first video in 93.
Okay.
That's when the layout was 680 square feet, that original square over there.
Okay.
And I tried to sell the house with the layout to no avail.
Right.
And the crowning blow was this real estate agent came down in her 4-foot heels and her $500 Corsair and red business suit, and she comes down the basement and says, well, before I list this house, all this shit has to get out of here. So I'm a gentleman, maybe by act of Congress maybe, but I was always a gentleman. I wasn't that day.
Right.
You wouldn't believe how fast she went out this house.
Oh, Jesus.
So I bought 6 acres of land, and I was going to build the ideal house for a model railroader, which would have been a 40 by 80 footprint.
Right.
And but then again, I couldn't sell the house. So eventually I said, hell, I'm not just going to put an addition on the house. So I sold the land. I made a few dollars on it and started this addition. That was 94.
Okay.
End of 94.
Because I remember seeing the addition in pieces. Well, I used to come over here all the time, too. Now, Fred, you were a manager. You ran MB Klein. You were a manager there, too, for
I
a while.
worked for at MB Klein since like 89 on and off for many years. And I'm a highway engineer, but I got laid off back in like 2010.
Okay.
And then I went to work for Klein's, and I worked my way up from a puller to retail manager there. And then they were going to close the store, and I saw that happen. And one of the consultant firm hired me part time.
Oh, wow.
So I went back to them. And then in the meantime, starting in January of last year, I started working at White Rose Hobbies.
Okay. Let's talk about White Rose
just up
Hobbies.
there in York, Pennsylvania. I had worked with the owner there, Ryan, who worked at Klein's for a lot of years, and got mad at what they were doing with their internet and weren't listening to anything he was telling them to do.
Right.
So he's been trying to get me up there for a couple of years. So in the ways, I started working up there because I missed waiting on customers, and I missed promoting the hobby and teaching and all that kind of stuff about the hobby. So, and then also I'm building 2 layouts up there.
Okay.
I have a round robin group, which are 7 or 8 guys. We have 5 layouts there that we're building, plus my own.
Plus we'll see that, too, folks. We're going to go visit your layout, and then we'll come up to the store, too.
His layout is great.
Right. So, all right, let's talk some insane stories here. I want to hear, let's talk about scenery stories. I've heard horror stories about screams and cussing and screams when this layout was being built. What the hell's that all about?
Well, that's partially my fault, though. These guys came down to help out, gluing foam clusters on the wall.
Okay.
I forgot to tell them the hot glue gun has a low and a high setting.
Now, how big are these hot glue guns? Are these the little
ones? Yeah.
They were the little
What?
ones. Yeah.
Because I thought they were like little 3-inch guns.
No,
Okay.
they're medium sized.
Triggers.
Okay.
Triggers.
So
triggers, yeah.
and these guns, my wife gave me one of those guns, and they're like, what, 400 degrees or something? Can't they set something on fire?
Yeah, that could actually.
Yeah, I guess it could. Yeah.
You could, yeah.
Including your flesh.
We haven't had a fire, but yeah, it could. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we keep it on a hot setting. In other words,
man.
one of those hot glue guns, to warm it up, you have to put it on high.
Right.
And then switch this, go over to low immediately.
But I've found that the glue doesn't stick as well.
Okay.
A lot of times.
That's
so
probably
we just
true,
left it. We left it on high. But yeah, we'd be putting this stuff up here. We'd be reaching over, and you'd hear one of the guys go,
Right.
"Ow!" And some curse word, "Ow!" Some curse word, and we all started laughing.
Yeah, I learned a lot of new curse words.
Right. No, I've burned the living crap out of myself with those guns. It's painful. You get those little what are they? Second degree? What are they? First degree
Yeah,
burns?
yeah.
Those little blister burns.
Right.
So you all had lots of burns on your hands.
Well, I don't know. I mean, initially, but after a while, you learn
how
how not to do that.
Right. Well,
So
didn't you
learn how
guys?
to put the glue on, and you could do it one of two ways. You can either put it on the clump foliage and stick it on, or you can kind of put a bit of glue on the background or on the ground, the surface,
Okay.
and just put the thing on.
But folks,
So-
I mean, I'm just going to show you've seen this layout before. I mean, look at all these foam clusters. There's like 8,000 pounds of foam clusters on this layout.
Close. Actually, I bought 1,000 bags.
I'm like, good God. I mean, how many people did it take to glue all these foam clusters? Did you have like a crew of 50
I
people?
did. But what
Yes.
I would do, Al, see, if I didn't do it the way I'm about to tell you, I would have had an in-house chiropractor. I had to hire full time.
Okay.
Because what I would do is cut red paper, construction paper, red
Right.
rosin paper or whatever,
Right.
into like 12 by 12 or 12 by 18 sheets.
Right.
We sit upstairs, watch TV, and just glue the clusters on the sheets.
On the
paper.
sheets.
Yeah, then just glue
Okay.
the whole sheet up. It goes like a carpet.
Right.
And that's how this was done.
So you could make like 1 by 1 sheets, kind of like, or
Now in here, you have to do this individually, obviously.
right. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Now you talked about scenery. Fred and I probably together should be in the Guinness Book of Records because see this casting these rocks from here all the way around. It's about 35 feet.
Okay.
Maybe more, maybe 40 feet.
Right. All the way
yeah,
down.
We did that in one night.
one night.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The castings weren't already made.
No.
No, we made them. Oh, the casting, the molds were made. but
Right.
The
Yeah.
How can you possibly? And I've done this too, folks. So I'm asking you guys because that's the first time I've ever heard this. How's that physically possible? Because what you guys using real hydrocal? It would set up in 10 minutes.
All hydrocal.
Okay, so it was all hydrocal.
We would do
Yeah.
like 6 molds and just put them on. So as soon as they get hot or warm, we just pull them off and
Where,
redo them.
where would you guys mix the plaster in another room so you wouldn't get the plaster dust
No, we had a
everywhere?
table right
It's
here.
just right there. Yeah.
So
Right
you guys set up a table.
Yeah.
Folks, in this book, I'm going to hand Fred this book you could show to us. We've pushed this book before, but it's available for $69.95, and there's a lot of stories in the book on how the layout was built.
Oh,
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
sure.
But I'm talking about some stuff that might not be in that book.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, he's got a nice little history of the railroad. Photographs taken by a friend of mine, Garen Mortensen.
uh-huh.
That was my
Friend of
fault
ours,
because
yeah.
I should have been here
Right,
taking
right.
pictures. But
Well, that's okay.
yeah. So you can see it's just full of great
Gee,
pictures
Fred,
and
we'll
photographs.
do it again. I'll let you take it.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll do a volume too. I need a book on mine. I'll let Fred do a volume on my book.
So anyway, you can see it's a very, very, very nice book, and it's fun to read actually.
Right. Oh, it's great. Yeah, we've pushed it before. It's available, folks. I'll have the information on the website.
The only
But-
problem with the book is it's G-rated.
right. Right.
Howard's not
So-
initially G-rated.
I'm gonna pan this real quick. So the rock castings you started back
one
there
night, one night.
in one
all
night
the way around. It's about
And-
40 feet.
and went all the way down, and we're talking about
all the way down to the other end.
Yeah.
it just all the way. I mean, I'm not
That's
going to
just
turn the camera
castings.
down
The
there.
detailing I did later.
Right,
The staining
right.
and the foam.
Right.
But just the basic castings.
So you guys had a lot of helpers doing that.
We used
Yeah,
to.
what was there? 14 guys, something like that.
Man.
We used to meet every Wednesday night. We had up to about 14 guys.
Yeah,
maybe more.
yeah.
Used to come down. Unfortunately, a lot of them passed away. Now, Al, over here, that's cherished territory.
Okay.
That is the list of everybody that's actually worked on this layout.
Right, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But
Yeah.
but did you? I hope you bought these people food when they were here. You bought them
Oh, shit,
pizza
yeah.
and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
food.
We had a great time on
had a
Wednesday
good
nights.
time.
It really was. It was,
Right.
it was a lot of
I
fun.
wish I knew about it back then because I would have been like I would have died and gone to heaven, just gluing. I'd do any task, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you were just a little kid then.
No, I was a good age. I don't know. I think I was out playing around with my wife back then. I just got married, and I was a wild man.
Yeah, but it was funny. Howard didn't have full control over what was going on in here.
Really,
Yeah, I mean, he
I turned him loose. They're
he
all
said
good.
he kind of turned us loose.
really.
They did a good job.
Yeah, and then I asked him,
I had no
maybe a couple
clue.
years later, I said, did you enjoy that? And he said, well, I enjoyed the camaraderie, but I just didn't enjoy not having full control.
I
over
can't
what was going
believe
on
that,
in the
Howard.
layout,
Because my impression, you have a lot of, and it's good. It's a good thing. You seem like to me like you have a lot of control.
I don't give a shit about control.
And, well, that's what I see because
I'm not a control freak.
All right, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know this.
The hobby's about sharing. This was a sharing episode
And a fun episode.
We're all playing train.
Right.
We're not running trains. We're building trains. We're building scenery. That's all.
And I think all in all, we fed off of each other.
Right.
And he learned stuff. We learned stuff from him. We learned stuff from each other.
Right.
And so, our scenery techniques and all that kind of stuff are, a lot of it's based on what we've learned from Howard.
Right.
But then we've tweaked it here and there to match our own, way
tastes.
we like to do things. So,
right. And so folks, don't ever be intimidated about building a layout. Just do it. Just do it.
I have that at the store all the time. People say they can't do scenery.
Yes,
I'm
they can.
There's nothing out there scenery-wise that Mother Nature hasn't already done.
Right.
You cannot mess it up.
Right. No, it's cake. Now let's talk about another great story. Let's talk about electrical horrors.
I only had one thing about scenery. This section here was done the old-fashioned way with the cardboard strips, and plaster soaked paper towels, which is a bitch. And fortunately, I wasn't married at the time. But we would track hydrocal up the stairs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Where do you plaster all the hydrocal plaster all over?
Right. That's why I asked. Where did
we had
you
to carry these 100 bags down. Now, when I was in shape, I could carry a 100-pound bag of hydrocal down the stairs.
Right.
If I could carry a 10-pound bag now, it'd be a miracle.
You don't want
those days are gone. So what happened was when I built the next section, which we'll show later, I guess.
Right. We can pause.
I discovered this red rosin paper technique.
Wow.
Which is fabulous.
And that's talked about in the book, too. It shows you in the book, shows you how to do that in the book. So you can buy the book. So
no plaster, except for the castings if you want to use them.
So the electrical horrors, we've all had electrical horrors. Trying to wire this thing, Howard, what in the hell? I mean, are you an electrical engineer or what did you do?
Well, I talked about in one of your videos that there was a thing with my guys who used to come down here.
Okay.
They would allow me under the bench.
Right. Oh, I remember. Okay. I remember that. The truck.
Now, Fred was allowed under the bench. He was one of the guys who was dual qualified. He was qualified above and below.
Okay.
I was not qualified to get below the bench. I did that once, and these guys came over what was it, about 3 months. You must have ripped about 20 miles of wiring out.
It was funny because you were switching from Dynatrol over to DCC.
Oh, what a
Which was the best day of my life.
Howard's idea of wiring was
whatever
wire had in hand. So if you had a 6-foot wire and it didn't quite reach, it would change color.
Oh.
We had wires that changed color 3 times before it got to the toggle switch.
Oh my God!
So we'd be up climbing her, me, Garen, and Jim Bailey, I think, were the other 2 guys. So we were all under there.
That's right.
And we had a big, big trash can sitting out there, and Howard would be standing out there, and we'd come out with a big roll of wire, put it in a bit,
just throw it in a garbage can.
What are you guys doing?
Oh my God! Howard, if they didn't do that, if anything ever happened, we'd never be able to figure out how to fix this thing.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. It just wasn't. It wasn't pretty. That's all.
No. And we all got it. We got it all running up and running after.
So this was in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we were all much younger.
Before this section, right? Yeah, that was the old section we were doing that on. The new section was wired by another group of guys, right?
And which section, Fred?
Up here, this edition. I don't think we did that.
No, I think you guys helped with that too.
Okay.
And Keith Albright helped too with all kinds of stuff going on too. Yeah. He's a genius. So. But all right, so Dynatrol, and then you went to Digitrax.
Well, first started. I had a system. It worked so well, but then again, it was a dinosaur. But I should have kept it because I'm a dinosaur.
Right.
I'm proud of it. And being in aviation, I had a tour of the Narco factory years ago up in Philadelphia, and they had these little rheostats used for avionics, like radios, aircraft radios, little rheostats. So they gave me a whole bunch of these things, and I had the Control Master 2 by model. Was it who makes those things?
MRC.
MRC.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a couple of those around the layout, and I just had everything was divided into blocks.
Right.
And each block was isolated at the end, and controlled by an individual rheostat. I had boards like this, but instead of the switches there, you had a little rheostat there. So as the train would go into the block, I just turn the rheostat. I can shut it off or speed it up. And it seemed to work, but it was last year's technology. Then Rick Sester sold me on Digitrax.
Okay.
And so that's when these guys started ripping out all the wire.
Just placing a bus line.
It was
tying all the tracks.
And Digitrax is a wonderful, wonderful system. Unfortunately, I'll tell you a story once. When I was 15 years old, I got on this horse, the horseback riding. And I said, "Giddy up to the horse." And the horse turns his head around and said, "Who's this dickhead on my back?"
Right.
Flew me, tossed me right off. And Digitrax was the same way. Had no respect for me whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
The system was great. I couldn't come up with a fault. The problem was me. I just
Okay.
I don't have any background in electronics. I'm strictly a designer, and that's it.
But now you have NCC and everybody's
NCC.
happy.
It's a lot easier,
NCE,
but it's
yeah.
it's as far as the ability. I mean, the quality of the system, they're both equally as good.
Oh yeah, I
Right.
agree. I agree.
And
And,
we-
then it's funny because the people that have Digitrax swear by Digitrax,
Right.
and the people that have NCEs swear
It's
by
like Ford and
NCE.
Chevy. It's
Exactly.
It's like
whatever
Ford
you
and
do.
Chevy.
I just found over the years that NCE being the easier system to learn how to use, which Howard discovered.
Right.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I love it.
So,
It's,
yeah, and the quality and Digitrax does a lot of the stuff. It's like plug and play kind of stuff that NCE doesn't do, but you could do with NCE what you could do with Digitrax.
Well,
So-
we've all have layouts that have shut down. We can't figure out what. I heard a story earlier. We were having coffee here, and you guys were talking about you were ready to literally burn this thing down, cut it up with an axe because you had a short and you could not figure out what it was, and it was a derailed passenger car in a tunnel or something.
Oh yeah, it was. I had all the electrical. The geniuses came over, and for months we couldn't figure out where the short was. So
Wow.
I'd had it, so I said, "I'm going to start over. I'm just going to come down one morning, get a cup of coffee,
Oh
and
Lord.
start at 8 o'clock in the morning with my wire cutters and just rip everything out of here and start over because the whole layout was dead."
Wow.
So before I just had the urge to flip the switch. Came alive.
And it came alive.
Boy, turns out I had a passenger car in a tunnel off one side of the layout, and one of my cats got in there and knocked the passenger car over, and the trucks somehow were lying across the tracks, shorting it out, which I couldn't see because the car was inside the tunnel.
Wow.
But the cat could get it, put its paw in there, and and that was it.
So don't give up, folks. If you have a problem,
no.
we're
Just
all
get,
here
a,
to
just,
help
get, just
you.
get a cat.
Right. Get a cat or get a cat or something. All right, well, folks.
Now I'll tell you another cat story. This layout has 5. This is the fourth layout down here. The third layout, which you guys never seen, was Penzi. I was a Penzi
Okay.
modeler, and I put wires up,
You put what up?
overhead wires.
Overhead wires.
Oh yeah.
I never-
running Penzi Electrics.
Good
Oh
Lord.
yeah, I had a whole bunch of GG1s and all these
What?
E44s and yeah.
I don't remember that.
You know,
I
you never
didn't
saw
know
it.
that either. Yeah.
You guys never saw that.
See, here we are. We have new
We're going back to
ground here.
We're going back to the 70s now. This is like 1975.
What?
That's when I had my hobby shop.
Wow.
And a cat got down here. It got tangled up in the wires and panicked and rolled over like this.
Wow.
I just ripped the whole wiring system out.
Wow.
So I said the hell of that. So that ended my Penzi. I went to Penzi Steam. But I love Penzi Electrics. I saw them as growing up. And,
Right.
That's and then Howard uses Central Valley trucks, and some of the Central Valley trucks have gotten older over the
Yeah,
years.
that's
And every
true.
once in a while, we'll turn the system on and we get a short.
Right.
It's one of the passenger cars.
Right. Well, that's
because
what.
the insulation's worn off of one of the sides
right.
of the wheels, and it shorts out. So we'll get down here and it'll be driving us crazy. We're trying to figure out where's this short coming from.
Right.
And then finally, we just picked a passenger car up, and the short went away.
Wow.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Andre and I were cleaning track in the track cleaning episode, and we showed one of the trucks that looked like that. Hey, this could be a problem.
Right.
Get it off the layout.
Yeah.
Well, folks, this will be the end of this section. We're going to have another chapter on the different names on the layout. So we're going to do that as a separate video. So you guys, thanks so much. And I will shoot the second chapter. You'll see that soon as well. Thanks for watching.
Well, thank you, Al.
Yes, thanks, Al.
All right, let me. Hey, folks, Al Puglisi, we're back in part 2 of interesting stories and history on Howard Zane's layout with Fred Eisen. And we are in the town of Albright, which is named after Keith Albright. And I'm just going to pan over just to show you. Pardon the shakiness here, but actually, this is the town of Albright. And Keith is not here today with us, but Keith is, in my opinion, the genius of DCC. That guy is a genius, and he has helped me out on my layout so many times. And if it wasn't for Keith, I would have probably jumped off a cliff. because I don't know what I'm doing wiring my layout, and Keith has helped me. And I guess, Howard, that's why
Oh, yeah, similar stories. Keith is
let's
the best.
let's tell some humorous stories about Keith real quick if we
Well,
could.
I can't think of anything humorous. I mean, he's great at what he does.
Right. Right, he's fantastic. But we were talking about some more horror stories or about running trains. Fred, you were saying this layout has so many trains.
Well, it's not really horror stories. It's just for the longest time, Howard would store a lot of his equipment up on the layout.
Right.
So, and he'd have an engine on the front of each train. So if I would bring a group of people down to see the layout,
Right.
I would have to run maybe 20 or 30 feet till I caught up to the rear of the train in front of me, and then I just have to switch to the next train forward and take that another 20 or 30 feet until I
Right.
got to the train in front of me. So it was kind of fun, you know. But in order to see the whole layout, it was kind of neat. And then the other thing that I remember a friend of mine, Otis, anyway, I brought him up
Otis.
to run trains one time, and I gave him a throttle.
Okay.
And Otis is he's very he likes to talk and everything. He's
Right.
running a train over here, and he says he thinks he knows where it's going to come out.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you hear somebody saying, "You're almost about to run into another train." So Otis had to real quick shut the train down, and he goes, "I thought it was going to come out here." I said, "No, Otis, it's way on the other side
Folks,
of the room."
I'm afraid.
But I wouldn't. After that point, I would never let people run because they didn't know.
Right.
You know, but at least somebody was paying attention enough that we didn't crash. But
Well, one of the problems we had with other people ran trains, including me, sometimes I'd forget to leave trains in tunnels. Now, 25% of this layout is covered underground in tunnels.
In tunnels.
You know, I also have a mile-long tunnel on the other side.
oh yeah,
Mile-long tunnel is called that because it's 66.6 square feet
Good
long.
God.
which is a scale
Scale
show
mile.
mile.
Didn't anybody make a rule not to leave trains in tunnels?
Yeah, I did, but still people would forget. So you see these screens here? We installed cameras in all the tunnels.
Jesus.
Right.
It's
For
not, the system's
longest
not
time-
turned on now.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I
The
used
longest
to
time we didn't have them, so yeah.
I used to store trains in tunnels just to keep the dust off them sometimes, and then forget they were there,
Forget
and
to
then
crash.
crash. Let's talk about some great crashes. Are there any great? Well, not great,
Now, there's no
obviously.
such a thing as a great crash.
Okay.
Gosh.
It's the second worst sound in the world is
Right.
a brass locomotive hitting the floor. You don't want to
Right.
hear that sound.
Oh Lord.
And then a scratch-built wooden car
Oh.
it hits the floor, all the parts go flying off. There's a certain
Oh, my
sound.
God.
You don't want to hear that.
Right. Well, I don't recall that we've had very many major derailments. Every
Right.
once in a while, you'll hear a car start jump off the track and click,
Right.
click, click. But usually you can catch it. The problem is a lot of times it's in an area that's almost impossible to reach because
Right.
Howard has such long reaches to some of the tracks in the back. So
Well, I can't reach them anymore. I lost 4 inches of height. I was this size when I.
No, I remember that, yeah.
I was 6'2". And,
Speaking of lift outs, folks, Andre Koneski and I have on the channel cleaning of the track, and I had no idea. I don't think Andre knew either. There was pop-ups, and we're leaning over on those gizmos, you know, trying to clean the track. And Fred here, he saw the channel and said, "Hey Al, don't forget, there's lift outs." Then I'm like, "What? What the hell are you talking about? How many lift outs are down here?"
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
right.
So I need to know where they
They're
are.
pretty well hidden. Now this over here, where you guys got around that curve, that lift out there, you could probably shoot that. Where those 4 houses are.
Uh-huh.
It's all the way over that side.
Okay.
That's a lift out, and you guys are having a hard time.
Right. We were back there praying to God we weren't going to fall through the layout and
The
destroy
problem
it.
is, you see this ceiling comes down this way here,
Mhm.
over the beam, and then if you push up high in the lift out, you're gonna the structures are gonna hit the beam, so you got to
Oh.
be really careful.
Yeah, real careful.
Oh, jeez.
Not much maneuvering room.
Wow. And then over here, I'm going to show you. You got many TV screens. We were talking about them so that you can see inside the tunnels.
Oh yeah.
Wow. That's really cool. Now, so let's talk about the different towns. You've got a town you named after Fred.
Oh, everybody that's worked on this layout did serious work on the layout. Unfortunately, some of them are no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
But it's named after them.
Yeah, and
the area is mythical. This is definitely a freelance prototype layout.
Right.
Right.
And everybody I know from I'm just very appreciative that Howard thought enough about us to
Well, I
actually
appreciate
do that,
it.
you know.
I'm glad you helped me out.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's grateful.
Wow.
There's another thing we should cover.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about scenery before. I know that it's a different subject now. most of the layout is like this. I bring the scenery down to lower, rather
Right.
than have the fascia up to the track level.
Okay.
That makes it easier to photograph.
Yeah, it makes it much easier. And that being said, as many years as I've been coming down here and filming this layout and taking photographs, I still find shots, angles that I had never shot before. I mean, it's just amazing. Everywhere you turn, there's something
Right.
amazing to look at.
Right.
It's-
We had
it's
no
just-
idea there were structures. I'm cleaning track. Andre and I would discover what there's a row of buildings back here.
Yeah,
You know.
Yeah.
And what's this entire section? The layout's new, the newer section.
Yes.
This entire-
Actually, no, that's not true.
No?
This is the 6.
Oh, that's a newest section.
This is the newest section.
Okay, the
this
newest-
was the original, but I tore the whole thing down in 2007.
Okay.
That was what, 26-foot square, right?
26 square.
Yeah.
Wow. And goes all the way back there.
And what happened was they had that column was hidden because the furnace and the water heater was in the exact center.
Uh-huh.
Now this was the worst possible house for a model railroader because the original stairway is over there.
Okay.
In the center was this damn furnace and water heater, and then the lights. The original lights were 4 cords hanging on, 4 bulbs hanging on cords. It was
Right.
ridiculous. But anyway, we managed to get it work around that.
So, what kind of lighting you use a
I'm converting to LEDs right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a funny thing because I used to kid with Howard that he had to call Baltimore Gas and Electric Company
Right.
and tell him to put another substation online when he had all the young incandescents because he was going to turn the layout
Right.
on. And
Wow.
it would actually get rather toasty down here.
Oh yeah,
that actually hurt.
the
With,
summer was unbearable.
Oh.
Winter was great because it heated the basement.
wow.
Yeah.
Well,
And
the
Alan
electric-
Keller, you had problems with that because of all the heat. It was not only the lighting, but Alan Keller's lighting, right?
Track got warped when Keller was down there.
Wow,
The
from
heat.
the heat.
Yeah.
Well, I discovered that the fluorescent lights take color out of your scenery.
Yes,
I
they
learned
do.
that the
Oh,
hard
yes.
way.
Oh, yeah.
So, folks, LED lights are the way to go.
Oh, definitely.
We're
And
back.
you can get daylight, you can get warm white, you can get
Right.
different color LEDs.
Right.
My layout, I pretty much use daylight everywhere, but I use these 16 and a half foot long LED strips that you can actually, they have a sticky back, you can put them on your fascia, put them up, and they're actually dimmable. And it just gives you nice even lighting. And sometimes I wish I had gone like half daylight, half
Right.
I forget what the other one is, forget the K, but anyway, somewhat different because it is a harsh lighting. But yeah, lighting, and for those of you that are going to build a model railroad or have one, lighting is probably one of the most important things you could do for your layout,
Right.
especially if you want to do photography work.
Right.
So I have a guy up in Hartford County, Maryland, that has an N-scale, really nice N-scale layout, and
Mm-hmm.
it was hard to photograph because he didn't have enough light. So he's since then put some lighting up, and I haven't
Right.
been up to see his layout yet, but
Yeah.
it's this week, I think.
Nothing's worse than a beautiful structure and you can't really see it because.
Right.
And I've got lighting issues on my layout. I've got to add light to.
Yeah, yeah. But these 16, and they're not all that expensive, we're going to put them up at White Rose too, but they're cheap and very efficient. So,
Wow.
And they're dimmable, which is a really cool thing.
Wow. How do you keep now? As far as dust and humidity, Howard, what do you recommend for a huge layout for humidity and dust
Well, let's
control?
go back to 8th grade science. What is dust?
Well, dust can be dirt. Dust can be human hair. I mean, human skin. Human
Yeah.
skin.
80% of dust is human skin.
Is
I
it?
don't have that many people down here.
Okay.
So dust is not really a problem.
Right. The other thing, and at least on my layout, well, probably because of that, I don't know how many people but myself and my round robin group come down, but I think one of the other issues is that drop ceilings allow dirt to filter down through it. And I
Okay.
was blessed enough when I bought the house to have drywalled ceilings, drywall everywhere, and it's a controlled environment, both humidity, and heat-wise
Right.
and cold. So that's helped me. I rarely have to clean my track because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And another big thing is concrete floors. You got to paint them. You either got to paint the floor or you better put a carpet down or a covering of some kind.
Yeah, I use these foam, they come in 2-foot squares. I
Right.
put those down. So it's not only, it helps insulate your feet from the floor, but it also helps keep the dust down a little bit.
Wow.
And it's softer to walk on than these hard concrete floors.
Wow.
So,
Well, folks, I think that does it for this section, and I appreciate you. And you have anything other stories
Oh
we
my
can?
God,
Let's tell some stories.
I can go on for hours.
Well, let's
ask the questions.
All right. What? I guess tell us some stories about how in the world you deal with a tour bus coming down here, and all of a sudden you get 80 people showing up down here. I mean,
well,
what?
it's
How in the world do you deal with this?
I don't. First of all, I don't now, but
Right.
I did in '93 when I was published. The first time I was actually it's the first time I was published in Model Railroader. I was
Okay.
published in other magazines. The few months after that magazine came out was the Model Railroad NMRA convention in Valley Forge.
Oh wow!
So I was on the tour. So 3 huge tour buses pulled up in front of the house with 50 people in each bus.
Wow.
Oh my God!
I knew this was happening. It was a beautiful day. This was in July. So that time I could only get like 10 people at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I had a huge deck in the back, which now I put the additions back there, but it's still part of the deck is there. And I set up tables. I invited a few other people. And we had a churn show.
Right. Oh wow!
Sell brass, old cars,
Right.
parts.
Right.
The best days I ever had. So when people were waiting their turn to get downstairs or out buying stuff, because people go to the convention, they want to buy stuff.
Wow.
And so I was, I think I did about, I can't remember, almost 10,000 sell.
Wow.
Excuse me.
That's okay. And then we have to talk about our favorite nitpicker stories. I just blow them off because these people, half of them don't have layouts, and I don't allow it on the channel. But I remember one guy saying, "Oh, the rocks are out of scale," and rocks. There's no such thing as a rock that's out of scale.
We're a scale tree.
Right.
Right?
You know.
Most of my trees, the typical deciduous tree is 60 feet tall.
Right.
Now, a 60-foot tree, picture 60-foot passenger cars like that.
Right.
Yeah.
A pine tree is maybe 90 feet.
Right.
There you go. We'll go over here. So what I do is all the trees are I call them baby trees.
Right.
So that's one problem. Water has scale. So if you try to use real water, you're going to mess up. You got to model water. And rocks have no scale whatsoever.
Right.
So that's what. So one guy said my rocks are out of scale. So what are you talking about? And but then again, I hate to talk about stuff like this because it's negative. You know,
Right.
There's all types.
Right. That's funny. Well,
The idea of sharing the hobby, that's fun. Maybe he may have picked something up that would help him later on.
Right.
His modeling life.
it's just tremendous. I mean, I don't know. Did you built a scale model of this thing? It's in the book, I guess, before you actually did this whole edition.
This section here I did.
Okay.
I built a scale model because I want to do it right.
Right.
There was no plans whatsoever here.
You just did it as you went.
Yeah.
You just
Now this section here was torn out for the simple reason that we had a visitor, and he liked to eat.
okay. Oh yeah, we have to talk about this. Yes.
He was a powerful eating son of a bitch.
Okay,
And,
so he enjoyed his food.
He enjoyed his food.
Okay.
A little too much. And his friends called him circumference because he had an 86-inch waistline.
Yeah.
Well, it had duck unders, as you remember. It had 2 duck unders. And what I did to finish it off, I put masonite on the walls inside the duck under. Well, he decided to go to ramming speed. He got stuck.
Oh my God.
This is 450 pounds of model railroad. And we had 2 pushing on the caboose. We couldn't get him out. He was stuck.
Wow.
Wedged in there. There was no way. So he was in his nice fellow and all, but he was starting to hurt because I guess he was probably 70, maybe late 60s at the time, and his back was going up.
Oh.
Like this.
Right.
The duck under, walking under the duck under position. So I had no choice. I had to grab my sawzall and cut him out of the layout.
Wow.
Like that. And we got him out. He was hurting.
Wow.
So I had to get rid of the duck unders. Now there's a thing here when you build a layout or design a layout. If you have if a duck under is needed, don't do it.
Right.
Because what happens was each year the duck under gets lower and lower and lower and
Right.
lower, until the point where you just can't do it.
Right.
Now there's no way today I could navigate a duck under.
Right.
When I built this section, I was in my early 40s.
Well, that's interesting because you guys were talking earlier, and what we just shot about doing the wiring under the layout.
Mhm.
That was in the '90s, so we were all in our 30s. We were all much younger then.
I was in
You
my,
know, we
Oh,
were in our
yeah.
I was in
30s.
my 50s then,
Yeah,
but I
I
was
was
Okay.
in the 90s, I was in my 40s. Right?
Okay, yeah, and it's much easier to move around under the layout. Andre and I get under there to try and see tunnels, and it takes us 10 minutes to regain our body movement back.
But with me, as long as, and I think Howard's actually mentioned this, is that, model railroading can keep you young because
Right.
it keeps your mind operating, going.
yeah.
And because I'm building so many different model railroads, most of the guys don't know or DCC.
Right.
So I'm always the one of the oldest guys in the group, but I'm still agile enough to be able to get underneath the layout. And I think that's just because
Right.
I'm
You're in
agile enough
shape,
because
yeah.
I'm in shape because
Yeah.
of the having to work on the
Right.
layout.
See,
So-
folks, we don't just sit at the coffee table and eat biscuits and drink coffee and build models. We actually get under tables and do things.
Oh yeah, and
Yes.
it keeps your mind active. It keeps your,
Well,
your
another
creative
reason-
juices going.
There's one thing that if you look around here, the whole layout, the height of the track is 54 inches.
Right.
Why? Several reasons. Reason number one, if you're going to work under the layout, you can sit comfortably in the chair
Yeah.
because you have the height.
Right.
Number two, it brings your layout close to eye level. The average layout is 42 inches, which means anytime you're viewing your artwork, you're in a helicopter
Right.
looking down at it, and that
Right.
really sucks. And the other reason, between the base of the layout and the ceiling, it's a lot easier to model if it's only 2 feet rather than
Right.
4 feet.
Right. Well, guys, I appreciate the interview. And till next time, thanks for watching.
Yeah.